Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm David Rooney, publisher of the Revelstoke Current. And this afternoon I'm speaking with Gary Sulz. He is the funeral director here in Revelstoke, and he's also a candidate for City Council. Gary, thank you for agreeing to this interview.
Thanks, David. Appreciate you coming by.
My pleasure. I wonder if there are people in Revelstoke who don't know who you are.
Yes.
And I think that it's relatively few, particularly new people. But perhaps you could tell our viewers a bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, my name is Gary, and last name Sulz. I've been a funeral director here in Revelstoke for the last 30 years. First 6 of those years I commuted back and forth from Salmon Arm to Revelstoke. And in 1990, when I bought into this beautiful facility, I moved into town. And basically been serving the community for all of those years.
What's impelled you to get involved in politics? I know you've given this a lot of thought. Perhaps you could just tell us a bit about your decision.
I have given thought. 20 years ago, a local gentleman, Dominic Maloro, came to me and said, "Hey, Gary, I want you to run." And so that was the first time I'd ever thought about anything, and my comment to him was, I'll give some thought to that when I retire. And my intention was to retire at the end of October of this year, and it hasn't quite panned out that way, but it's been a long procedure about thinking when to run and why to run. And the issues in the community and the time that I actually have now and the fact that I want to give back, perfect time.
What do you regard as the major issues facing Revelstoke?
Well, I think there's many issues in every community. Here, members of the community are concerned about financial sustainability, the debt. Taxes, high taxes in the business core all play an issue. The potential issue with the Big Eddy Waterworks seems to be, these are things that are coming to the forefront. And so at some point, whoever gets in with council will have to address those issues. I guess the fact that in the late 90s our debt kind of skyrocketed, or into the 2000s things started to skyrocket, seems to be a concern for the community. So the present council seems to have done some things to address those, and the council that will get in will have to continue to address those to try and bring debt down, to look after putting some reserves aside, and to deal with the aging infrastructure. So those are things that need to be dealt with, no matter who's on council. That will be an ongoing thing for every councillor.
Infrastructure is probably responsible for the acquisition of most of the debt we now have. And do you think that the future council will be able to address infrastructure problems or address our infrastructure needs without assuming more debt?
Well, I think we're all going to need to look at how do we deal with the infrastructure without borrowing more money, and that will become an issue. Are we able to do that? I don't know. And when we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to deal with sewers and water lines and that sort of thing, if we don't have the reserves in place, then that means that we're going to have to borrow money to deal with those. Do we want to? Absolutely not. Do we want to raise taxes? Absolutely not. I, as a taxpayer, and especially on this building, see what happens when our taxes go up. That all plays a role in financial viability to businesses in the community. So everything's interlinked. There's nothing that we won't do at City Hall that won't have some sort of snowball effect or relate to some other issue in the community.
Does that include economic development?
Yes. When we talk about economic development and bringing in business or accommodating existing business. It comes down to how are we going to do that? How are we going to deal with that? I don't see Revelstoke as a place where we're going to have big industry come in, because we don't have the place to put that sort of thing. But to entice small industry into the community to go along with what we already have may be the way to do it. And how do we do that? Word of mouth, advertising, saying we're open for business. Those are all things to consider. I wouldn't be the first person to say, I think we need to give people tax breaks to encourage them to come, because then basically we're looking at the people that are already here and saying, thanks for being in business, but we're not going to give you a tax break. Mm-hmm. That's really not going to go over well. So we need to look at it. And when I think of light industry coming in, I'm thinking of industry that might be employing 1, 2, 3, 5 people, and maybe works with what we've already got here. So whether that means we employ or bring in business that has something to do with tourism, or building skis, or doing something with things that are already here. We have some of that stuff going on, but maybe there's room for more in the marketplace. At this point, I don't know.
Sounds like you're angling for a position on, say, the Enhancement or Economic Development Committee.
Well, again, as I mentioned, I think everything's interlaced in the community. So when we look about enhancing what we already have, we all are here for a reason. We love the community, that's why we're here. We're not here because we enjoy getting out and shoveling the snow every morning. We're here because we want to take part in the activities that are around us. So if we can enhance the things that we already have to bring more people in to enjoy them, and maybe those people will say, you know what, I like it here, I want to live here. Now we're drawing people in, and we're building a tax base. And maybe those people are going to build homes or businesses in the community.
Are there any other things we can do to attract people? I mean, the economic part is, I think, key to doing that, but we do have a shrinking population. So what else can we do?
Well, I'm not sure at this point if there's other things that we can, say, hey, here's a fix-all. We're going to do this, this, and this, and that's going to attract people. I think by marketing our community and what we already have here will be the way to entice people to come. We're world renowned now for our ski hill. We're well known in Western Canada for our snow and our snowmobiling and those sorts of things. We need to figure out a way to market our golf course, a beautiful golf course. And we may need to say, if you've got an hour and a half, come and play 9 holes on our beautiful picturesque golf course. Something like that. Because, of course, if we don't start marketing these things, we're going to lose them. Everything has aging infrastructure, as we spoke about.
So. Now you see many different aspects of local society, families in distress,
yes,
things like that. Are there any social issues here in Revelstoke that are of particular concern to you?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I see is I know that we've, with the social structure here, the living wage program that Jill Zacharias and her group are working on or endeavoring to help with is a big thing. My wife and I are able to assist people who come to us, but sometimes we need to assist them in a financial way so that they can carry the burden of the day-to-day things when dealing with a tragedy. So it's not so cut and dried that everybody who lives in this community is making ample in their wages to deal with things. So, from the social aspect, we need to make sure that people are being supportive in their day-to-day living, that they can actually afford to live. And that brings up seniors. We've had seniors, and of course the demographics are changing, but when I retire, I'm planning to stay here. I'm not getting any younger, but when I look at the people that live in the area of the community that I live in, there's lots of people who have been here for many years and are now into their 80s and 90s, and they love it here. But the rest of us would like to get to be into our 80s and 90s and be able to stay here and financially be able to afford it and have all the amenities that the community is enjoying. And that boils down to making sure that we're all able to financially be able to accommodate our needs.
Yeah, that's a tough one because it involves so many different factors, and one of them being the ability of business to pay that living wage.
Correct.
It's going to take some, I think, creative thought to overcome some of these things, but it is an issue that requires some kind of community-wide discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. What other issues or what other things what other things are of concern to you when you look at our community?
Well, one of the major concerns that I have is I look at how many people in the community have to leave the community for work. So we have many women in the community living, and their husbands have had to go away to support themselves financially. I have many friends who've had to do that, and that just brings all kinds of stresses to the family when you're apart and not wanting to be apart. So those things are a concern. So it goes back to what we were just discussing about having a living wage and being able to live here and work here. And when we had all kinds of industry going years ago, and forestry was going full tilt, and CPR had many more people here working, that didn't seem to be such a concern as it is today. And so when I look at that and I say, how do we are we able to encourage business of some sort to either stay in the community or be in the community so that our people can stay here and work here as well as play here? Those are concerns. And I don't have an answer for that at this point in time. I'd like to be able to say, geez, here's my election issue, and I've got the answer for that. I think that, again, entails much conversation and making sure that we as a community, again, are viable on many fronts so that people actually can afford just their day-to-day expenses.
Okay. What particular skill sets do you bring to the table, Gary?
I guess because I've been dealing with tragedy for most of my life, I have the ability to listen and understand where people are coming from. I have the business experience from the financial perspective on how to help and assist when there's limited funds. And I think because of my varied experiences just in my business and meeting with the people, my thought process may be different than someone who has just been in retail business all of their life. So I may come across as maybe thinking a little more, but I'm just thinking about things in a different perspective than they would. And I think that really is what makes me different than some of my colleagues that are running for council. It's just maybe I think a little different because of my experiences. So I think that's the key.
Good. Gary, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.